the plan seeks to create mixed-income communities with public housing as part of the surrounding community.
He was thrust into his current role as Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Housing Authority, where he oversees the CHA's bold, even mind-boggling $1.5 billion redevelopment of public housing in Chicago and running the Public Housing Authority itself. It is a daunting responsibility. Running the CHA responsibly means trying to overcome generations of challenges. We should all think of the Herculean efforts by the residents who have succeeded there under the most trying of circumstances. Our hats are off to Mayor Daley and our guest today, and many of his predecessors for what they have accomplished. The track record of our guest today bodes well for the CHA. He has a bachelor's degree from Chicago State University and a master's degree from Roosevelt University. He spent 4 years in the early 1990s as 17th Ward Chief of Staff. When an aldermanic vacancy was created in the 17th Ward, our guest today was appointed by Mayor Daley to fill the vacancy. Not only did he complete the unexpired term, he was also then re-elected, garnering more than 80% of the vote. Our guest's promising aldermanic career was cut short when a crisis developed earlier this year at the CHA, leading the mayor to appoint our guest to run the CHA. His appointment has been widely applauded and reflected the confidence and esteem in which he is held by Mayor Daley. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the City Club of Chicago the Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Housing Authority, Terry Peterson. Terry? It's all yours. It's all yours.
Good afternoon. First, let me just thank Jay Doherty for that nice introduction. I would like to begin on a personal note by saying that I'm truly blessed and honored to have the opportunity to serve the city of Chicago as the Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Housing Authority. The last 10 years of my life have been the best that one could ever hope for. I have a family that I love. I have a profession that I am deeply devoted to, and a mayor for whom I have the utmost respect and admiration. Moreover, I cannot imagine a more challenging or inspiring opportunity than the one we face today to transform public housing in Chicago from islands of poverty into safe, healthy, mixed-income communities. In just 7 weeks on the job, I've come to appreciate the many dimensions of this task, from providing for seniors, to protecting our children, to creating jobs to strengthen families, to building new partnerships and bridging old divisions. To a greater degree than ever before, I understand that success cannot be measured in bricks and mortar alone. We must judge ourselves in terms of human success stories, because without human success stories, no matter what we do, we will fall short of our ultimate goal to improve the quality of life for the residents who live in the Chicago Housing Authority. For the past 30 years, we've taken a pass on addressing the issues facing the residents of CHA. We must erase the stigma associated with living in public housing. Now is the time to step forward and provide a clear path to jobs and self-sufficiency so residents can achieve lasting change and be a part of Chicago's economic and social mainstream. So much attention has focused on the negative aspects of public housing, from crime to physical decay. But we forget too often that the vast majority of residents who live in public housing are decent, hard-working, law-abiding families and individuals. They want the same thing for their children as everyone else in Chicago: a good education, a good future, and a good quality of life. And for too long, Chicago has treated public housing residents like a separate segment of society, isolated socially, economically, and in every other way, facing one barrier after another, which does absolutely nothing but destroys the spirit and the will to succeed. And we all pay the price for this failure because we are one city and one people. Today I want to talk about how Chicago can bring an end to these conditions in public housing. I want to talk about how all of us, public, private, nonprofit institutions, local, state, and federal officials, and people in every community of Chicago can work together to meet this challenge just as we have met every other challenge in our history. A little over a year ago, the mayor assumed control of public housing from the federal government. Under the leadership of Sharon Gilliam and Philip Jackson, a number of positive changes occurred. The elimination of a $47 million budget deficit, shutting down troubled high-rise buildings, downsizing staff, and cutting in half over 25,000 backlog of work orders. CHA privatized management in every one of its developments to improve services and to bring them closer to the people. Today, CHA residents have on site people to deal with problems. No longer do service requests come downtown, they're handled right on site. A few weeks ago, I held a press conference to lay out our expectations of property managers, and they are clean, safe buildings, attractive landscaping, and prompt action when service requests are made. I said that I would hold them accountable and would hold them to the same standard as every other landlord in the city. And I know it won't happen overnight, but our expectations are clear and we will hold them accountable. CHA also disbanded its own police force and brought in the Chicago Police Department. We're now waiting on a federal grant that will give us extra resources for public housing, but I can already report that crime in CHA is down and arrests are up. I realize that crime statistics, no matter how positive, offer little comfort to families living in areas where gang activity is rampant. And like many communities in Chicago, in the hot summer months, we recently had our fair share of gang violence. Last week, I met with Superintendent Terry Hillard to get additional resources to conduct more aggressive vertical patrols in CHA high-rises where gang activity is occurring. Public housing is for law-abiding families and children, not for gang bangers and drug dealers. We are now working on our leasing policy so that we will have strong tools to evict illegal residents. Let me be absolutely clear about this. In the new CHA, there is no place for criminals, and I will do everything in my power to get rid of them. I won't surrender one child, one building, or one unit to drug dealers and gangbangers. But like in every other community in Chicago, public housing residents must be partners with the police in fighting against crime. They must get involved in the CAPS program. I know from my years with the city that successful city programs like CAPS can have a positive impact on public housing. I also know that CHA should not be in the business of running other programs that city agencies are providing or responsible for. That's why last week, the Board of Commissioners voted to transfer education, recreation, and senior programs to the Board of Education, the Chicago Park District, and the city's Department on Aging. That's why we're working with the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development to find jobs for CHA residents. And thanks to that partnership, this summer, over 1,300 teens are working this summer, getting a paycheck, staying out of trouble, and gaining valuable work experience. I know there's still much to learn about life in CHA, and that's why I started 2 weeks ago a listening tour of every public housing development. I'm meeting with residents, resident leaders, seniors, and children to talk about the issues and the concerns that they have to live with on a day-to-day basis. And what I've noticed is from Ardgale to Abla to Stateway to Horner, there's one resounding theme that you continue to hear, and that is that the residents are ready for change. They're tired of living in communities with rundown grocery stores with owners that don't respect the people. They're tired of places where the children have nowhere to play, and they're tired of drug and gang activity running rampant through the developments. And they're also tired of people from outside of the community coming into public housing to buy as well as sell drugs. I saw this for myself last week at Stateway Gardens. Residents say that they want us to clear out problem tenants. They don't want someone living next door who play their music loud all night, who leave garbage in the hallways, or their children unsupervised. They want everyone in CHA to be a good neighbor and to show respect for each other so that they can all live with dignity, comfort, and security. So in the coming months, in partnership with the residents, we're going to be launching a Good Neighbors campaign in every one of our public housing developments. Together with residents, I want to establish and enforce clear standards of behavior that we can all work toward and abide by. Lawful residents of public housing are proud of their community. And despite the problems, many of them have a lifetime of good memories that have sustained them through hard times, cold nights, and even personal loss. That's the spirit that I want to build on in public housing, but it will require trust. And after so many years of broken promises, building trust won't come easy. Residents are justifiably filled with uncertainties about their families and their future. Under the plan for transformation, every resident of public housing who is lease compliant is guaranteed a new or rehabbed unit on or near the current site of CHA development. During the redevelopment, virtually all residents of family housing will have to move at least once. Residents will be offered Section 8 vouchers or the opportunity to move to another development on a temporary basis. These commitments are included in the relocation contract we will provide to every lease-compliant resident. We have been negotiating the final terms of the relocation contract for several months with residents and their lawyers. A few outstanding issues remain. However, today I want to urge everyone involved, my staff, resident leaders, their lawyers, and the receiver to redouble your efforts to resolve these differences, because each day we delay impedes our efforts to weed out problem tenants who are responsible for a large share of the crime and the gang activity and the vandalism plaguing CHA. Each day we delay threatens our efforts to relocate families and children from unsafe, underoccupied buildings prior to the onset of cold weather. Last year, CHA moved 700 families to safe, warm, and dry housing and saved millions of dollars as well. Money better spent to improve the quality of life for CHA residents. We need to consolidate again this year, but under our agreement with the residents, we must give families a 120-day notice. That pushes us into late November. So I am hopeful that we can reach agreement soon. We need to move forward with the plan for transformation because there is so much that needs to be accomplished. This $1.5 billion plan was approved by HUD earlier this year. It's a blueprint for one of the most ambitious, far-reaching urban redevelopment initiatives anywhere in America. In addition to our core commitment to provide new or rehabbed family housing, the plan also includes $350 million to improve senior housing with an air condition in every unit. It also includes more money for property management and better access to services like job training, daycare, and substance abuse treatment, which will help residents get jobs. We will also provide service connectors to make sure that residents are getting the services they need. The plan seeks to create mixed income communities with public housing as part of the surrounding community, making them places where families, children, and economic opportunities can flourish. Locally, our best example is Cabrini Green, where public and private investments have created new housing for people of every income, as well as a new police station, a new library, a new park, and a shopping center with a grocery store. Today in Cabrini, you see people of every income rubbing shoulders, living side by side, luxury cars and economy cars parked next to each other. That's our vision for the future, a melting pot of people and families living, working, shopping, and playing together. We've also made progress at Henry Horner and Abla with new housing rising on the site of former CHA high-rises. The next place we're focusing on is Ida B. Wells and Madden Park. I was just out there 2 weeks ago to take down a troubled high-rise that had been a blight on the community and a magnet for criminal activity. Eventually, all of the high-rises are coming down. CHA recently submitted a Hope 6 application for $35 million. It is a down payment on a broad series of public and private investments at Wells Madden that could total over $300 million when finished. Under the proposal, a developer will build 3,000 units of housing, 1,000 units of public housing, 1,000 units of affordable housing, and 1,000 units of market rate housing, as well as a retail and commercial development. With the support of other city agencies, the plan also calls for new schools, a park, a new field house, and infrastructure improvements. More importantly, public housing residents were fully involved in the process. As a matter of fact, several were hired by the development team to survey their neighbors, and the survey found that most of the residents of Wells Madden like their community. Many want to stay there during the redevelopment and afterwards. Moreover, they want the same kind of businesses and services in their community that a lot of us have in our community. They want a safe place for their children to play, a good school, a place close to shop for groceries, a place to get a haircut, a place to rent a video, or a place to buy a pair of shoes. And like all of us, they want a good quality of life for their children and their families. And that's our goal. It's going to take some time, and it will be different at each development. What works at Cabrini or Horner might not work at Taylor. We will have a different set of partners in each area. For example, the State Street corridor has McCormick Place and IIT nearby, along with the White Sox Stadium and the new police headquarters in Brownville. The challenge is to develop a plan that links these assets. Abla has UIC, Taylor Street, and Peterson. What opportunities can they provide, and how can we work together? Cabrini is near the booming Claiborne retail corridor and Goose Island, a thriving industrial park with good jobs that can support families. At each development, we have to consider the role of other city agencies in terms of infrastructure improvements, parks, libraries, schools, and other amenities. Every situation will be different, but the commitment will be the same: to improve the quality of life for CHA families and children and rebuilding communities with a holistic approach. Equally important, I want to reemphasize that residents will be partners in this process. They will be at the table, choosing the development team, helping plan the development, voicing their issues, and participating in the process to meet this challenge. We have the most generous, committed business community anywhere in America and a foundation community to match. We also have many dedicated community housing organizations with a track record of success and the energy and the ideas to help us make a difference. So today I offer my hand in partnership to all of you, but I also want to issue a challenge to everyone in this room and everyone in this city to get involved. Transforming public housing is not a spectator sport. With something this big and this important to the city, it's going to take all of us to be involved. No one can afford to stand on the sideline. Residents of public housing are ready for change. They've suffered enough. They know that the current model has failed their families as well as their children. And I'm sure everybody in this room knows that the current model has failed this city as well as the taxpayers. Residents want to be part of this change. They want to shape their future. They want to redefine public housing communities, their communities for the new century. We also know that there will be disagreements along the way. There will be bumps in the road, but we cannot let our differences divide us. Let us stay focused on building healthy communities that offer a good quality of life to CHA families and children. Let us stay focused on building quality housing that we can all be proud of. Let us stay focused on creating real economic opportunities so that public housing residents, like all Chicagoans, can live meaningful, rewarding lives. And if we stay focused on these few fundamental things, I know that we will succeed. Thank you.
Mr. Peterson, that was an outstanding presentation of a vision that is sorely needed in the Chicago Housing Authority, and we stand united at the City Club of Chicago to help you translate that vision into reality. Can you tell us just some specifics on the eradication and the eradication of gangs in the housing project, some of the specifics that you want to implement?
Well, one of the things that I want to do, and I call it a tough love policy. One, we're going to providing, and I mentioned this a little earlier, we're going to provide job training, daycare, and substance abuse treatment if you want to turn your life around. But also one of the things that we're going to do is we're working now on a leasing enforcement policy. We're waiting on a grant from the federal government to do more aggressive vertical patrols. And we're also looking to implement the gang laundering law as well. And also we're looking to make sure that CAPS is fully involved and entrenched in public housing.
Thank you. Questions from the audience, please? Yes, ma'am. And please state your name.
Hi, Connie Jackson, TCA Health. Our main site, Audio Health Center, has served Audio Gardens for about 30 years. I guess I'm a little concerned as I hear what's going on. If we have lost sight of the original intention of public housing, which is transitional housing for people on their way to rental or home ownership, and if, as we continue to build public housing communities, are we certain that we want them to be communities where people live for their whole lives, or we're missing out on kind of the fundamental cornerstone of the American dream?
And I agree with you. One of the examples that I pointed out was Wales Matin, where we're going to build 3,000 units of housing. And I mentioned that 1,000 will be public housing, another 1,000 will be affordable, and then the last 1,000 of units of housing will be for market rate. So what we're hoping is that as families come back into public housing, that they make the transition from public housing to affordable housing, and that also at Wales Matin, we're going to have home ownership opportunities. So what you're saying is exactly what we're looking to do, and that's why we talked about creating mixed income communities.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that's going to take place is from development to development. We're currently working on a relocation and a lease policy, and that will sort of set, will put in place certain standards that every resident must abide by. But as we go from development to development, working with the residents, working with the developers, working with other community stakeholders, what you will find is that, for example, at Wales Matin, one of the things that they ended up talking about is that every resident that wants to come back has to be employed, has to be in a job training program, has to be in school. So I think as we move along, I'm finding that most of the residents, the things that you talk about, what we call the good neighbor policy, most of the residents want the same kind of thing. They want neighbors who are going to be law-abiding, neighbors who are going to keep up their property, who are going to supervise the children. I mean, so those are the kind of things that I'm hearing that the residents want to see, and we're going to be working with them as we go from development to development to come up with the types of policies that they're looking at. I think the opportunity exists, and as I mentioned, there are 22 family developments. Up until today, I think I've been to half of them. And what I'm hearing across the board from all of the residents is that a lot of them want to stay on site. They want mixed income communities. I'm not going to create what is currently now vertical slums and create horizontal slums. We're going to work to create mixed income communities that not only builds affordable housing, but also schools and parks, commercial, and all of those things that most of us, all of those amenities that we look for when we move into a community. And I'm not sure if you took our budget of $600 million and gave everyone a voucher that they would want to move. Most of the residents want to stay on site. They want to live in the community. They are ready for change. They're concerned and tired of the same issues that I've heard over and over again about drugs and gangs and all of that. So we're going to create mixed income communities right here on those developments throughout the city.
We thank you very much, Terry Peterson.